All right, I have your attention. Going to call the policy committee meeting to order for, this would be February 8th. Glad everyone's here, and we're going to go over our items for consent agenda, policy, get some updates from reports and TLN, things of that nature. Board members, we have Shannon Smith from Bonnie Croft Fire Department here with us tonight. Scheduled up to be on our agenda for 6 o'clock meeting, had a schedule conflict, so asked to be recognized during our committee meeting, and that will be fine. So we'll recognize Mr. Smith at the end of our, as we get to the end of our committee reports. So we'll go in and start and for our meeting tonight, and just kind of review the consent agenda that has our meeting minutes from last month. That'd be January the 11th. And so there was we had in that various school board reports, budget reports, things of that nature. So one of the things we'll just slide into is you see that we have budget amendments and transfers. We also have a copy of update of our general purpose fund. So Mr. Hickey, give you opportunity if there's anything you'd like to share with us on that report.
Which one?
That would be the general purpose fund, and then I guess from that leading into the budget amendments, transfers.
Yeah, as far as the financial report, you've got that there in your packet. So, and you can also see the notes that Mr. Markham has provided. I did want him, if he didn't mind, just to share with us, because if you look at the graph, you know, as far as expenditures are definitely kind of off. It just looks a little weird, but he gave the description. The reason why, and mainly, is because of the grants that we haven't received. But I would like him, if you could, to speak to that, to see how that's going to, you know, level things back up, and what that looks like for the next month. If he can explain that a little bit.
So for the expenditures, if you look at where we are as far as on a percentage basis of our budget, we are at 49.46%. Oh, I'm sorry, apologize, let's look at revenues first. 59.54% of revenues were collected at the same period last year. This year we're 56.8%, and the majority of that is due to the two large federal grants that we received and budgeted into this through budget amendments. Well, one federal grant, not two federal grants, the RUST grant, the COPS grant, and then we also had the Innovative School Models grant, which is state funding. Those have been budgeted in revenue. We've received little to no reimbursement at this point. That's still in the process. But once we do receive that reimbursement, that'll equal out. So I just didn't want you to be alarmed in the percentages being off between the two fiscal years as far as where we're at.
So once we receive, you know, the grant funding, is that going to be pretty much equal, or will we be a little bit ahead of what we looked like last year?
We should be about where we're at last year. So we're pretty close to where we were at last year as far as on a percentage basis. Now we have collected more revenue, mainly coming in through the UTSA funding formula from the state.
Right.
So.
Thank you, Mr. Markham.
Hey, Mr. Markham, tax revenue for the county, is it staying about the same?
Yeah, it has. It's grown just a little bit, but a lot of that growth has been offset by the equalization ratio, which I'm sure you're familiar with. But whenever real property increases, real property is just reappraised every 5 years. Personal property is appraised every year. And And so every other year, there's an equalization ratio that reduces the value of the personal property to equal the growth that you've seen in the real property. So you lose a lot of your growth there, just to equal out those two different taxes. So we have seen growth, but not as much as you would probably anticipate because of that equalization ratio.
Mr. Markham, you spoke about grants from the state, and one of the things I think board members we need to just be mindful of, and I don't think this is across the board, but the majority of what I've seen from grants coming from the state, they are reimbursement grants, meaning that we spend the money and then we give them the receipt and then they reimburse us for that expense. That's correct on most of the grants that we get, that we've been applying for from the state, that they won't give us the money up front. We'll have to spend it first and then they will reimburse us on that?
That's correct. About 99.9% of your grants are like that, where you make the expenditure, and then you have to provide proof that you paid for that item in order for them to reimburse you on that.
So just a little point of clarity, because sometimes that, we can look at that and see if we've got an expenditure, and I think that's what you're speaking to here. We expended the money, it'll show up, and we just haven't gotten that money back, and so that's kind of like any other business. You turn in an expense report, and then they'll reimburse you for it.
And that's why it's so important for us to have a cash flow, to have cash in the bank so we can cash flow those items, because otherwise, if you don't have the money to, you can't do the grant if you don't have the money to pay for it up front and then get reimbursed.
Exactly. So, all right.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Chairman, what was that last thing that Mr. Markham said? I did not hear what he just said.
The last thing, if I'm not mistaken, he said that it's important of having cash in the bank so you can cash flow the reimbursement grants. So, because if you don't have the cash to flow the expense, then you're probably not going to be able to get the apply for the grant.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, question, are we going to discuss the line item movements about early childhood?
Yes, I was getting ready to get that on the transfers,
Okay.
budget amendments. So we only have one on the docket this month, and that's the general purpose fund, moving money from the in the pre-K area, in the accounts that's listed, and it's basically to utilize the balances in salaries and benefits for health insurance to cover employee costs for teachers and assistants, and allow additional funds needed for instructional materials and supplies. And so the salary budget reductions resulted based upon the estimation of salary needed to prepare in preparation of the new salary scale created for this 2023-2024 school year. So, Mr. D, you can speak to that, I guess, in a little bit more detail, because
Well, when we do budgets, this was even prior to really where we understood how much TISA funding there was going to be. So we estimated based on our new, of course, we have new salary scales for all of our employees. So we overestimated the amount we would need for the teachers' salaries in that category. But now that we've got past January 1st, insurance rates have come in. That's when the new insurance rates take effect. And so we needed more money in the benefits portion. So we just are shuffling it from the salary category to the benefits portion in order to cover those expenses.
If I may ask a question right here, just by an ignorant person looking at this, sort of has the lookings of maybe we were planning on having an extra early childhood teacher, but it wasn't that?
No.
Okay.
No, and nobody lost a job. It's just we had extra money in one category. We're moving it to another to pay for their insurance.
No, I wasn't insinuating that. I thought maybe you was expecting to hire an extra one and did. Okay.
So anything else on, as far as our budget and our transfers, proposals? Okay. We have on this month, we have to just approve our textbook fee. And we do this annually. We didn't do this last month, did we?
No.
Okay, so yeah, this is just basically a board approval of our replacement cost fee and the collections that we would assess based on the years of the book. I didn't notice any change in that.
This is the exact same fee schedule we had last year. It's just annually the board's required to review it. So there's no change in the policy. I'm just putting it before you for the annual review.
Okay. So, looking at that policy, is there anything that anyone sees that we might want to address?
I hate to be the only one asking a question, but is this mainly used for students or that have lost or damaged books, or? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Do we have a lot of revenue from that? Is there a lot of lost books or damaged books?
No, we have fantastic students and they take good care of their books.
Great answer.
Strongly encouraged by the teachers, I'm sure. All right. Anything else on our policy 4401? Okay, let me get into maintenance report. We've got in our packet, we've got an update on the construction project meeting that took place regarding Bonnycroft, and looks like that there's a lot of things that are still being worked on, seem to be progressing pretty well. Not a whole lot of outstanding on some items, and then there's identified some things that need to be addressed, I think, preparation for the next coming months. But any thoughts, comments on progression there? Is that in that item that was shared with us?
I don't have one, Mr. Chairman, on the, as far as Bonnycroft, but
Okay.
one of the other ones on there is the softball complex, and I was actually had enough time today to stop by and look. They actually got the insulation pretty much done today. It's gonna be, I know a lot of people don't, keep up with softball, but we've definitely been on the rise as far as our team and what they do, and this will be the next step. Most everyone else already had that. We were a little behind, so it's gonna be a big help, and it looks good.
You can't score runs if you can't hit, no doubt.
Ready for some turf, I think, isn't it?
Some painting and then turf.
So, I think we all, and this is moving on to the maintenance reports in your packet, we've all been updated, thank you, Mr. Director, on all the, some of the fire alarms that have been taking place at the high school, but say they're chasing that down, trying to get that corrected.
Yes.
Okay. So, and then heat repair. Good to know everything's in good shape at the middle school, and Woodland Park, air handlers to replace, and starting to work on the new Kean project. The general maintenance at other facilities, Finley's good, and I think most of you know, and Ms. Fowler probably recognize this, but back during the strong wind that we had earlier in the I guess it was back in late January or February, that we lost a sign up at Northfield, blew over, but looks like I saw that's been back up now for a little bit, so I'm sure they'll try to get that repaired and back looking good.
How's that coming along? That was my question.
We just have it upright.
Yeah,
The
that's
power is still cut off, and we have scheduled for, we've turned it into insurance, and then we've scheduled for some sign companies to come give us some estimates. So we're hoping just to be able to replace the internal parts. I think it'll still work, and the framing is still good, but obviously the decorative panels and then some of the lettering panels will have to be replaced.
Yeah, it looks like spaghetti in there.
Yeah. Secretly, I'm somewhat happy because as the former principal there was always a yellow husky on there that had nothing to do with the school colors, so.
Yes, there
I
was.
blame a former principal and relative of mine for that, but never, I digress. But I did not push it over. The wind took it.
All right. So, nothing on maintenance, go in our school reports. And appreciate all the teachers giving us information on what's going on at the schools in our district. I can imagine that it's taken a little bit to recover from the snow vacation that everybody got, and working to try to get caught back up, because one of the things that does stand out is heading into that time where you get ready for your testing and TCAPs, the elementaries, and various benchmarks testing is going on. So that can be very disruptive, and know that they're working hard to get back on schedule. Anything that board member Rec sees on that might want to draw attention to? And Mr. D, you can do the same.
Probably just need to be praying for teachers, students, and parents for during TCAP.
Yes.
Yeah, I did a
And
radio
grandparents.
interview today,
Grandparents.
and I think probably we're less than 40 days away from the start of TCAP testing. So that was there's a lot to be done and lots of time to make up.
So it was good to hear that call attention to high school announcing the class of 2024 valedictorian and salutatorian, Miss Hannah Austin and Miss Alva Jones, and they're going to be graduating this year, and they have been selected for that or recognized for that. So congratulations for them. And then the notice there that CTE's hit a couple of deadlines on working towards that innovative school model grant, and so that looks like they're making progress there. So I know a lot of people were excited about that and get what they had envisioned for that, get that in the works. So,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
Mr. Chairman, I wanted to say something there on, when you were talking about the high school. Would like to congratulate Coach Scotch and the girls. They did finish first in the district, won the regular season district champ, headed into district tournaments next week, and saw today that Celeste Reed is nominee for Miss Basketball at AAA.
Oh, that's great.
So congratulations to both of those.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And speaking of that, they do have the senior nights tomorrow night, and you have that, and then various other things start transitioning into spring sports. So it's a lot going on there. So that's the school report, and the budget report, we got a little ahead of myself on that. We took care of that with budget amendments and transfers. TLN report, Mr. Howard, would you give us an update, because it's a busy time in Nashville, isn't it?
I tell you, it's just like everybody trying to play who's pulling first and who's on second, who's on third, and who's going to make it home. Right now, it's hard to speculate what's going to be the topic tomorrow, other than the voucher bills and funding and safety. Those are always the main topics. But if I looked correctly, and where am I? Here they are on the back side of that page right there. There are 73 pages of educational bills, 40 to 50 bills per page, roughly 2,900 to 3,500 bills. Right now, that could possibly make it steps 1, 2, and 3. January 31st and February 1st were the deadline for filing bills for the House and the Senate respectively. They established committees and set them this past week. There is one Senate Education Committee, and there is 4 House committees. Everything range from House K through 12 Subcommittee, House Education Administration, House Education Instruction Subcommittee, and House Education Instruction Committee, if I read those correctly. So each one of those will be taking up The committees, of course, will be assigning things to subcommittees and then hearing back. Some of the main items right now that I glanced through and tried to pick out just some of them. And some of the things that stood out to me was maintenance security, grant funding, and the voucher issues, which I see that we've got a lengthy report on that. Fundraising ideas, student members to state boards. Congratulations for our local board right now. They may have one for the state board. And another controversial issue, handgun carries for teachers. And I know everybody says yes and no on that one. AI, artificial, and bus qualifications to drivers and approved riders. And that's been one of the main things that I've been questioning about, is to make sure that we don't get the wrong people on the wrong bus and be in a confined area to do carnage. And that's, I hope they take care of that. I've got a bunch of bills written down here. Of course, student retention. There's been new ones added for things from kindergarten going to first grade. Well, maybe I may have to take it back. I know from first grade to second grade, and then third grade retention is being battled back and forth. So, you know, right now it's confusing enough to even try to say that there's a definite direction going on anything right now that I have looked at, other than what we're already going to have information in a little while about. So, anyone has any questions about looking up things, I'll try to find the house number and something related and pass it on to you. And until that time, you're welcome to cruise the 3,000 plus bills too and see which ones you want to contact.
Right now, they're kind of in the making the sausage, where they're just kind of putting everything in, and they'll start working it up. So
See
yeah,
if anything gains traction.
It's a process. 2,900 bills, and obviously they don't pass that many bills, but they do pass a fair amount for sure. So thank you for staying on top. Yes, Mr. McDonald.
Mr. Chairman, sorry, I do have one question, and one thing that came to my mind, and wanted to know how maybe Mr. Dewey or Mr. Howard, how they feel about that, is the teacher's body camera, that was the funding that was put out on the security side for. How do we feel about that, or how do you guys feel about that in our schools?
Well, we have some capabilities like that already through our phone apps and safety apps that we have. The way I understood that was that was a bill put forth by Representative Pody. I think the way I understand it now is that you can use the available safety money that's being provided for that expenditure. So we have allocated our safety money towards a lot of different things that wouldn't include that right now. So if they were gonna award specific money for that purpose, then I would be open to that. But we've already looked at allocating those funds in other ways that were prioritized by talking to our principals and our administrators. So I'm certainly not against that technology, but we already have some form of that in place, not necessarily the body cams, but we have other cameras and we have other alert systems in place that I won't go in depth into. So I'm not looking at implementing that right now based on the funding that we've been given.
Okay, I had just read a little bit about that and was just kind of wondering how everybody else felt about it. So thanks for your input.
Can I ask a question? And it may be already do we have panic buttons in our classrooms? And I don't know, I just saw that as a buzzword.
To alert to the office, yes.
However you want to say it,
Yes.
because I just saw that as a buzzword in one of the safety deals
Yes.
right there.
Yes, yeah, they'll alert the office, yes.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Good. Any other questions on TLN? Well, since you're talking about safety, we got next item on that consent agenda is just our monthly threat assessment report. You know, it's I think it speaks to our students, and the fact that we're looking about 3,500 students in our district, and we've got three situations that were incidents that were reported and no findings of threats and were closed. So that's good to see a small report on that, and credit to the students and teachers for controlling and behaving in a respectable manner. Anything else anybody else have any comments on the threat assessment report? Okay. Then the last report's personnel report, be covered in our consent agenda. It looks like that we're for the, sorry, got lost here. This is from December. We had some applicants, but you did have, still having good applications or people applying for positions and interviewing. It looks like we had a significant increase of hires in December as opposed to where we were in previous months. So seeing that in the personnel report, that for January, that you see the new hires and transfers, terminations, and such. So it's good to see we're continuing to be able to fill positions, because that's, in this day and climate, not always that easy. So anybody have any comments, thoughts on the
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
did we have, sometimes teachers, retire during the middle of the year, so did we have a lot of turnover of teachers, or is most of that assistants and other things? Did we have a lot of retirements, what I'm asking?
There are different family reasons, can't go into specifics, but they have those listed there. You can see the full-time and part-time folks, but most of them are assistants and just changes in needs for their families and things like that.
I just didn't know if most of them was people retiring that we'd have to replace teachers.
Not many retirements at all. It was more family situations and things like that. And we do exit interviews on all employees, and I haven't come across any really disgruntled ones. They all say they would recommend coming to White County to a friend. So.
exit interviews are good. Give you some feedback. Can't improve on things that you don't know is a problem. So that's good to hear that we're doing that. So that gets us through the committee's reports and things that we cover in our consent agenda. One of the things that we we'll have on our agenda tonight, and we'll go into the details when we get to that, but and I apologize, I was a little tardy on getting this into the folder packet, so I appreciate Mr. D providing us a hard copy tonight. But that's Director of Schools evaluation. We have, after contract renewal, we have a time period for which we have to get that in place, and it's a performance evaluation that be an agreement between us and the director. So we'll spend a little time tonight talking through that, and we'll have that discussion. So just want to give you an update on that and for our regular meeting. And then again, vouchers, we'll talk. We have some information there. Just want to keep ourselves and the public updated to say that we are aware of this, and you can't speculate on how it would impact our district today, but we just something we need to be aware of, because at some point it could. And so just be good for us to have a little discussion about that, and make sure that Mr. Howard was kind enough to provide me with the bills that, I think the bill numbers that relate to that subject. So just want to make sure that we have that, and we can be aware of it, the public can be aware of it, and we can just be prepared as things change going forward. So that's all I really have for committee, unless there's anything else you board members want to bring up. But if not, I'll recognize Mr. Smith, and allow you to address the board and what's on your mind.
Well, hello, everybody. I'm Chief Shannon Smith, Bonnycroft Fire Department in Mountain Up there. And the thing that I've been wanting to talk to everybody about and been brought to my attention is our sign up there. It's not worked in the last 10, 12 years, as far as I know. So I was just here to find out what's going on with that. And I think he done already told me that they're going to be looking into it whenever funds is available.
Yeah, if you don't mind me speaking to that, thank you, Mr. Smith, for being here, and Chief Smith, and we discussed just briefly before the meeting. It's come up, I know Mr. Howard has talked to me privately about that. So what we normally do in those situations is we have contingency balance left over in a project, and so what we want to do is get to the end of the Bonnycroft project, see what money's left over in the contingency, make sure we get all the instructional needs of the building taken care of, and then what's left over, we could look at applying for that. But that doesn't mean in the meantime, we can't go ahead and get some bids and some ideas in there. That current sign encompasses, recognizes the community and the fire hall and the school. So I'd like to do something that did the same thing. I was up there yesterday, I think, and we had a meeting yesterday. Yeah. And I think the structure is good as far as the posts and the lions. We're just going to take the center out and replace it with something modern and new. So we can get some estimates on what that would be and what we could do, and then we'll know once we get to the end of the project, we can address what's left over and look at that. So be nice as we do a facelift for the school, we could update the sign as well.
I agree.
And I will say one other thing, when we get to that point, we'll loop you in to make sure that the fire hall has involvement in that. We won't design it for you. We'll have some, we'll get some input from
I was
you.
gonna say the same thing, and when y'all get to that point, if y'all need any assistance or anything, I'll be more happy to talk to anybody about the sign. Like before, I've already got prices on LED 4x8s on both sides for one each side, and that's gonna be $50,000 is what I found. But it also comes with a lifetime warranty. If anything ever happens, they come back out and fix it free of charge, and it's guaranteed. That's just what I found out.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, we'll get some estimates on those, and then before we got into any artwork, we'll make sure you all are looped into that conversation for sure. Is there anybody else on, as far as the community is concerned, that we would need to have in that conversation that you could think of?
Well, throughout past history of White County, everything, they closely knitted a lot of times, the elementary schools and the fire departments there. You could possibly have 2 fire departments represented. Now, I'm not speaking for Eastland Fire Department. That's another big organization up there besides Bonnycroft Fire Department. The area that we're talking about is a geographical location that's sort of an island amongst themselves right there, that I think that a good hand-to-hand working combination between the school system fire departments would be a big start in a community relationship, and to help promote activities, events with the school, with the fire department. I'm just a strong believer in community support, and that I think if you can keep the community involved, I think even an expensive sign would pay benefits in the long run, in any aspect, any area of the county. But I think that one being on the main road right there, it would be seen by,
Everybody.
what would the traffic be, 10,000 a day?
At least.
Depends on how foggy it is, but.
You got a good point.
No, absolutely. No, I think it's a good idea, and like I said, it's one we've already discussed, and when we get to the point of really looking at design, we'll make sure that everybody's involved in those conversations.
And I'm sure you might get some businesses. Of course, I'm not trying to sell promos or ads on it or anything, but there's, in times past, there's been successful businesses that just for civic duties want to say, hey, I want to donate some money for this right here. So we're glad to talk to any of them up there.
Yeah, the high school actually had help from one of the local banks in getting their new sign out there, so it may be somebody that wanted to participate in that. So we'll look into that as well, maybe getting some joint funding for that.
You also, when you was up there, you did notice our pit that they destroyed.
Yes, I just noticed that yesterday, and so the construction crews have been staging a lot of materials up there and they knocked over their fire pit. So we'll address that. I'll address that with the site supervisor.
PTA had approached us on that, about helping us.
Have it? Yeah, they did do that. The PTA did approach us about helping with the sign. I forgot to let you mention that.
I'm sorry, who was that?
PTA,
PTA.
Oh,
Parents.
parent,
School
okay,
support
PT,
organization.
PTA.
but I ain't heard no more out of it, so.
But I think a positive move right here from the director and with the support from 2 local fire departments could start a big ball rolling. I really believe so. Hope that spark grows.
Yeah,
Me too.
I agree. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so that item will come off our agenda, item number 7. That'll
Thank
come
you.
off our agenda.
Thank you for moving
Appreciate-
it forward.
Yeah, appreciate Chief Smith coming up and here for that. It's good to have that dialogue and that will certainly complement what we're doing up there at Bonnycroft. So is there anything else regarding any policy? Please know that need to review Section 5 policy this coming month. So if there's anything in that you want us to discuss in this setting, please let me know so I can try to get that scheduled. But otherwise, if that's, was there anything else you want to? Yes.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, if I could, really quick, you have 3 packets of paper in front of you tonight. One, as the chairman said, is a copy of the sample of a proposed evaluation instrument for evaluating the director of schools, and that's one of your agenda items tonight. And again, this is just a proposal this is the actual TSBA sample model. None of this has been edited, so it can be changed anyway, but you have that for conversation tonight. Also, as we're going to be talking about the governor's ESA proposal or school vouchers, I've printed a copy of the actual leaked bill that came out about a week or so ago, that is the actual proposal, and then also a list that I have from a newspaper article that's kind of the top 5 things that stand out that I think school boards should know as it pertains to public education. And then finally, this is just for your information purposes, but this last one is actually, there's a class action lawsuit across the country. This was sent to me from our school board attorney, and there's actually a copy on the back page of that from our attorney, so you can see the email that he sent explaining. It's basically school boards are in a class action suit against social media giants like TikTok and Google because these algorithms are creating so much mental distress and so many social problems that are coming into the schools and costing the schools money and time to deal with. And so school systems are pushing back and saying, and I can tell you from our Stop It app, a vast majority of what we deal with is stuff that started on Facebook or started on TikTok, and it finds its way into school, and then we're the ones that are dealing with it. It's not Google, it's not TikTok that's dealing with it. So there is some merit to this. The involvement, as you'll see, you can read on your own, but it's be very limited on our part. It'll be a national-wide suit, but it'll be something that the board may want to consider if they wanted to be involved in that. Let you read it on your own. That's nothing that needs any action tonight. Just wanted to share that information with you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We may bring this back up, get a right chance to look at that. Maybe we'll bring that up next month in our committee meetings. Okay. All right, anything else? All right, well, we will adjourn at 5:42 and get started with the regular meeting at 6. Thank you.
Oh, sure, they're watching. He's like,
If I can have your attention, please, I would like to call the February 8th meeting of the Pike County School Board to order. This time, if you would, please rise, and Mr. Dwayne Howard will lead us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight. Board members, glad that you are here. Staff, members of the community, we appreciate you attending and your interest in the activities of our school district. Just a review of tonight's meeting. We had in our committee meeting, we went over the items in our consent agenda. So we'll be going through that. We've got one item on our agenda, Chief Shannon Smith from the Bonnycroft Fire Department, who is scheduled to appear and speak to us at this hour, had a meeting conflict, and so we spoke with Mr. Smith during our committee meetings about some work up at the Bonnycroft School regarding some signage up there, and so that item will not be on our agenda. We'll move past it. So obviously, we as a board by law are required to conduct our business in public. So this is us fulfilling that obligation of law, and we have a policy that allows for the public to have a public comment on our agenda, and that is noted on line item 14. That's our public comment policy 1404. So the welcome also those that are joining us on our live stream. We do live stream our board meetings, and that you can see they're online live or at a time of your choosing. So we appreciate you checking in with us online. So this time I'd like to go to the next item of agenda, and that is the disclosure of conflicts of interest. If there's any board member that has a conflict of interest of the agenda on any of the agenda items that are proposed for a meeting tonight, please let that be known at this time.
Mr. Chairman, as I do each and every month, I don't have any conflicts with anything on the agenda, but just for public record, let you know that my wife is a teacher in the system, and all the opinions and the things that you'll hear from me tonight are strictly of my own accord and for the best interest of the students of Locke County.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald.
Mr. Chairman, I will state the same as Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Hickey.
Mr. Chairman, likewise also, my wife is a teacher. There's nothing that I see it's conflict of interest, but also just to make sure that everyone knows that my comments are my own and should reflect nothing of her, and also have extended family members in the school system, that nothing should be taken for all my decisions are made solely for the betterment of the entire school.
Thank you, Mr. Howard. So Ms. Sims, please note in the minutes that Mr. McDonald, Mr. Hickey, and Mr. Howard all noted that they have spouses working in their district, but nothing that would constitute a conflict for tonight's meeting. So next item on our agenda is the approval of our agenda for our meeting tonight. So this time I'd entertain a motion for approval.
So moved with, you want to do it with the removal of line 7, or do you want to leave that in there and just skip over?
We'll just skip over that.
Okay, so I would make a motion to approve.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. McDonald. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Haston. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item on our agenda is approval of our consent agenda. We discussed that during our 5 o'clock hour. So at this time, I'd entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Hickey. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Haston. Any discussion?
I do want to say that I don't get to make it to the committee meetings at 5 o'clock, but it is nice to be able to hear the conversations that's going on, and we have some great healthy conversations during those committee meetings. So I just encourage that, you know, to continue. So I think it's beneficial to the board.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Just clarity for our audience, may not be aware that we do meet at 5 o'clock for committee meetings. We discuss various things like minutes that were held from a previous meeting. We review budget transfers, policy, if there's anything policy related that comes up. Review our maintenance report, our school report, our budget report, our Tennessee legislative news report, review threat assessments and personnel reports, and have discussion on those. No action is taken on those. Those are just informative at that time. If there's any action, that item would be moved to our regular meeting schedule. So that's just for those that may have questions or wonder what business we discuss. The 5 o'clock meeting is also open to the public as well. Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman, may I add to that a great thank you to the Finley Elementary School, first grade, kindergarten, fourth grade, whoever wrote thank you notes and added their artistry to our packets that was just handed to us. I'd like to say a big thank you to all those. I love them.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Howard. Anything else? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item on the agenda was Chief Smith, so we will move past that and go into our district update from the Director of Schools, Mr. Strombarger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll try to be brief. We addressed several of these items in the committee meeting, but first I want to remind you that personnel reports are in your folders and transactions for the month. You can see those. The governor gave his State of the State address this week, in which he stood firm on his voucher plan. I provided a copy of the draft bill to board members tonight, along with the article that shows how little accountability will be asked for the voucher recipients or the schools. You can see a recording of the governor's address online. As far as safety is concerned, we've begun to make expenditures from our recent safety grant award. Cameras, door locks, and window coverings are on the top of the list. Academically, progress reports were sent home recently, and parents can always see their updated grading information on their students' Skyward account. We're working with NIET, a math implementation that continues in all schools. The ATSI designation and support work at White County Middle School continues, and we've formed a success team made up of various teachers around the school to tackle the academic concerns at that school. White County High School, as we said, is proud to announce this year's valedictorian, Ms. Hannah Austin, and salutatorian, Ms. Olivia Jones. Athletically, the middle school basketball teams were defeated recently in tournament play, but had excellent seasons. So congratulations to those teams. White County High School girls team is currently ranked number one in the state in Class 3A. With 2 games to go, they are playing as we speak. Spring sports are ramping up and the games will begin soon. Progress building projects, there is a progress update in your board packet on Bondycroft. The final completion date has now been pushed closer to the end of the school year. We did have a burglary at the job site this week, and we'll be posting information on that on our social media pages. If anyone has any information about this theft, they should contact the White County Sheriff's Department immediately. The softball facility has been insulated, is ready for interior paint and artificial turf, and we hope to have that completed at the end of this month. February is Tennessee Career and Technical Education Month, and we'll be meeting with state-level leaders next week to discuss our award-winning programs and future plans for CTE. And at this point, that completes our director's report, but I'll be glad to answer any questions that you have.
Okay. Board members have any questions for our director?
So are we gonna talk more about the voucher program after this, or is this when we were doing?
That's
me.
the item.
I'll say that. My fault.
You're okay.
He's a
I'm all right, that's it. Take off my glasses.
All right. If no further questions, we'll move on to item number 9, and that's the director's evaluation metrics. As you know, we entered into a new agreement with our director in November, and part of the policy on that is we will establish a performance evaluation for him that we will review annually. and to have that place so we can give him feedback on his performance based on the criteria that we mutually agree upon. So it's like a negotiation on saying that we all agree that this is the best way to measure performance in his performing his role as director for a district. So we have, I think most all of us, maybe Ms. Fowler, you have not, but we've experienced, gone through and done previous evaluations on that. I think some of us have considered maybe be a little bit more subjective than objective in the evaluation process. So with Mr. McDonald's recommendation, based on his knowledge of TSBA and their resources, I reached out to Dr. Grissom and asked them if they had a sample of had a director's performance evaluation that we could look at, and I got that. I provided that to Mr. Drombarger and allowed him to review and say, you know, would you be prepared to discuss this at our board meeting? So I apologize because I was a little tardy on getting this dropped into our folder online, but appreciate the fact he put this, brought us hard copies tonight to look at. But what I'd like for us to do is discuss this sample, this evaluation instrument, and get some feedback. I think it's important that we have a good instrument in place to give objective feedback and in the evaluation process to our director for his performance, and that's just healthy for our district. And so I'll start by basically just going through and walking through it with you. You have annual objectives, as you can see, and these annual objectives, they look they really lead in with performance, and I think we're all think that performance is something that should be measurable to make sure as a district that we're reaching achievement goals as expected. So that portion of this review would be considered probably the most objective, where you could actually tie that back to a number, a score that from the various ways that the districts looked at. But it would be a very objective form of measurement. Then you get into others, you see basically that follow in line with what we've had in the past. But the one thing about this, it provides a little bit more clarity in, for example, performance objective, developing a strategic plan. And but in the past, that may have been just the one item that we scored. But this, it provides a little bit more depth as far as, well, what are we actually looking for? What would be evidence to say that objective is being met or not? And so when you go through that, you can see that's, to me, that's the improvement for this evaluation format compared to the ones that we've used in the past. Then we get into items that the board, observations. So this would be maybe a little bit more subjective, but you can also tie that to some things that you could note as demonstrating observations. Then and that speaks to very much when the subjects when it comes to the community, the staff and personnel, our facilities, our finance, and our human resources, the vision for the district, and then student achievement, which is paramount importance for our district. Then when you get into it goes to management and operations, integrity, fairness, and ethics, and then the political, social, and cultural context. And these are all a 1 through 5 scale. And one thing in speaking to Mr. D about is that this is also the same scale that's used for our administration principals. They're scored on a 1 through 5. So, and as you can see that the 3 being at expectations, if you go to a 4, it would be above expectations, 5 being significantly above expectations, and then 2 and 1 follow suit, just going in the different direction. The last page that is different from what we have, how we've evaluated in the past, is that this is the administrator's perception of the director's performance. So not only would this be, would we be looking at hard data that would be provided from all the scoring metrics that are used in the district, our perspective of how the director's performing in those various areas, but then we're also getting that feedback from the personnel, the administrators, of how our director is performing. So that's a lot much broader than what we've done in the past, and so I felt this document was quality enough to bring it to your attention tonight, and rather than suggest we try to come up with something else, obviously we can add to or take away from this being a sample as a starting point. But I wanted to get that in front of us tonight so we could take care of this obligation and have that in place. So I'll just open it up right now if anybody wants to provide some thoughts on that. I'll open the floor for discussion.
Can I start?
Yes, Mr. McDonald, you can start.
Okay, so, in looking at this, and I saw it in our packet and got to look through it a little bit today, I guess in this first, objective here in the annual objectives, all of this is data-based. Would we be provided with all of those, metrics that you use as far as, and the numbers that correspond with that from your administrative, team to be able to make our evaluation at that point?
So yes is the answer. What I would like to suggest there is that, I would like to suggest that we use state averages there. I think that would be fair, and I think that would be something that you all could see and be able to notice, okay, here, I could provide you with state averages compared to where we scored.
Okay.
And I think that would give you an idea to say whether I'm in the center line or where the district is above expectations or below expectations. What I fear is if I say in a particular category that we're gonna get to 37.8% and we don't, that would be seen as a failure. But if we get to 36 and that's much higher than the state average, did we really fail there? So that's one problem I have with setting specific numbers there. And then also, I think it puts pressure on the board to know what expectations should be in each category. So what I say to our principals and to our supervisors all the time is that I expect White County to be above state average in every category, and I expect us to be in the top 5 in the Upper Cumberland in every category. We are in many instances, we aren't in some, but I think that's a fair measure as we compare ourselves to the state and compare ourselves to our region. So that's what I would suggest as far as items 4 through 14 would be concerned, is that we based this on state averages. Now the others that are on the TVOS scale have to deal with TVOS or growth. Those are on a scale of 1 to 5 already, so it's a pretty simple measurement there. I just think that keeps the board from having to chase different percentages in a bunch of different categories that you may or may not have interest in. But I think it pays. I think it's fair in the sense that to both parties, that to both sides, that you can see the success rates that are happening if we just base it on the state averages. And I think it's easy for you to say. For example, if the board, we all want to be at 21 on the ACT, and I think our latest was 19.7, I think, was our latest average. But to get to 21 would be a phenomenal feat, to go from 19. To point case, several years ago, three or 4 years ago, White County had the highest one-year growth on the ACT as any district in the state, and it was 1.7 points. So that shows you, you know, and if the board says, well, we want you to get it to 23, that's not gonna happen in 1 year. And so, I'm not saying that you couldn't set that as a goal for us, but it keeps you from having to set false goals, your unattainable goals, and putting pressure, not just on me, but on our system that we may not be able to attain. So that's just my suggestion, is that we would use state averages there, and then I think you could look at that state average and look at where we scored, and it would make it easy for you on that scale of 1 to 5 to see if we were successful.
Okay. I also want to say that the administrator survey on Appendix C, I think is a great addition. You know, you evaluate every administrator in the district, and you evaluate all your central office staff. I think it gives them a good opportunity to know that there's, they can hold you to those same standards. And then they have opportunity to be able to submit this and not fear any repercussions back, because it would be anonymous. So I like that. That's my comment.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McDonald.
And I agree with Jason on both. I was a little concerned about this first part too, as far as.
Yeah, I don't wanna
I
have to
was
go
like,
chasing
yeah.
data, you know?
Okay. Mr. Heath?
Yes, so same deal as far as the first page. You know, numbers and data. I do have a question though. So, we do this throughout the school, so principals do this for the teachers and you do this for the principals. To me, it's a lot of pages. So when you're reading through all of it, first page is data, the rest of it is questions. It's still like Mr. Howard speak on before. Some of this we just don't know. I mean, it's not like our daily task. I feel like there's stuff in here or questions in here that we don't deal with on a daily basis, that we definitely would need to, I think, take out. But, so when the principals are doing the teachers and and you're doing the principals' evaluations, is it this long? As far as how
No,
many
it's based on a
pages it is?
rubric. It's based on a rubric that is just, it's a few pages. It's not quite this many pages long, but it's.
Yeah. Yeah, I
the
feel
team
we could.
rubric for administrators.
I think this is 18 pages, did I see that? Is that correct?
Front and back, but it includes the title pages. as
Feel we
well.
could trim some fat for sure.
So,
We think we're at the Capitol, huh?
I think to your point, and it's why this, and let me say this too, because I don't want to try to push something on board that not ready for. I looked at this and said, this is probably gonna be a discussion that we need to have, need to carry it over for 2 meetings. To read through it and look at the items underneath the objectives. For example, develop a school district plan. Okay, that's obviously something that we would expect of our director. And the language here says that has annual and long-range goals along with measurable objectives and strategies, and that have been established with input from the board, staff, and community members. So we have a strategic plan that we put in place, and so we could, that would be a check, for that we would base on, and if we didn't have one in place, that would be, I guess, a check minus. But then it has, below that, a district-wide vision has been created with input from board and staff. And I know that when we came up with the strategic plan, when that was adopted, I think, was that adopted in 2022? 22. So we're on a 5-year plan, so we're getting ready to start, we're a year and a half so into it, or maybe closer to 2. When that took place, it did have staff input, maybe The board wasn't as actively involved in putting that together, but nonetheless, that would be some things that we would look at to see if it was in place. You get into performance objective number 3. It talks about evaluate the organizational structure of the district and reorganize as necessary to achieve maximum effectiveness. When you come to an objective like this, and these are some things that we, as he would prepare for this, that we would probably need to see evidence from the director for certain things here that we could look at. To the point, we don't see this every day. A lot of this could be administrative, and so at that point we would say, okay, based on this, what are you providing that you could say, this would be my evidence for how I achieved that, to help us in that evaluation. Because I think that's what we've all talked about in the past. It's like some of these questions I'm trying to answer. I'd like to give a good well thought through answer, but if I don't have enough information, that makes it a little bit tough sometimes. So, but going through this, that could be part of it, that we go through and say, okay, as we go through these objectives, we'll need something to point to where that's giving us a sense of evidence to that. Mr. Dean?
So it is something that I do for administrators. They have many different indicators and domains that they have to address in their evaluation, and I ask for evidence on those, and they provide folders on that. Now, my one concern, as Mr. Hickey's pointed out, in section B, which is the board's observational data, there are over 100 questions there. And I would really prefer not to have to provide 100 different pieces of evidence for all of those. I mean, I will do what the board wishes, but if there are some questions that the board would want to eliminate or just didn't feel like were necessary, I don't care to provide evidence for that. I'll do whatever the board wants to do. If they want me to do 200 items, I will. But I'm going to spend a lot of time showing you what I'm doing instead of doing the work. But I'm perfectly willing to do what the board wants to do. Also, I want to say that, according to the contract, I mean, there's a 90-day window in which we're supposed to put this together, and I think we're pushing that. I'm not pushing back on that. I would rather us take time and do this right. It's in my best interest to do this right, and I think in the board's best interest to get it in an instrument that's going to evaluate me that you're satisfied with. So if the board chooses to take this and discuss it and come back and discuss it next month, that's fine with me. I'm not pushing that timeline, but that's certainly your prerogative. But and I just want to point that out. The first section is going to be quantitative data that I can provide to you. The last section is going to be data that comes from the principals. But that middle section is over 100 questions, and I don't mind to have conversations with you, phone calls, but to provide 100 different pieces of evidence for each one of those and more is going to be very time consuming, and I don't think beneficial to any of us. So just my thoughts. Thank you.
So, any thoughts?
I think it's going to be very lengthy and a lot of busy work for a lot of us that could be deemed overkill.
Okay.
I
You're
think
kinda with this.
I'm kind of with them. I think that this could be trimmed a little.
Okay. Ms. Fowler?
Well, of course, this is my first one, so, and I know we've not read over it, because I've not read over it. But, yeah, it can be trimmed a little.
Okay. Mr. Howard?
Thrown into the fire, first time.
Yeah,
That's
thrown
the way
into
I
it.
was in my first
Right
one.
at it.
I've never been a component of our present evaluation. Y'all know my negative comments on a lot of it. I think that there was better ways to evaluate and get the information. I asked 2 years ago the TSBA, and this is what they sent me at that time. Some of the things that I like about this one right here, it gives you weighted scales to weight on A, B, and C. Now, whether you want to put as 100% right here, 60, 40, 20, 60, well, 50, 30, 20, something like that. It adds another percent of in my opinion, involvement from the board. I was asking the TSBA for something to be more proactive for the board's involvement, for setting and seeing goals, setting and seeing objectives, for the board being able to be input on this also, right here. One of the things, I know it is lengthy, but the other one was lengthy too. Ever since the director of schools has not been on the ballot right there, that previous board, I think, if I can remember correctly, there was over 30% of that previous board evaluation that had directly to do with communities, okay? And or relationships with communities. And if you felt like the director failed on that right there, I mean, that was a bad score from the beginning, okay? This one doesn't have that much involvement in it. Now, as a positive for the director, as a negative for the school board here, everywhere that there's a percentage that the director gets to stay more with the school system, which that's his job, okay? The school boards has to pick up that extra percentage of doing with the community, okay? Now, I don't know if that sinks in, I don't know if that is happy with anybody right there. So whatever percentages that these part A, B, and C right there, you got to tell yourself right there, if we say that part B or part C is 20%, and the actual working on his job, I think, should be at least 60% right there. You can automatically say if he achieves that 60%, he's well on his way to being a successful evaluation. And that's what I hope. That's what I hope. I hope to see the director do exactly what he's been doing and the school board do exactly what they need to be doing, and it's a win-win. As far as all the parts in Part B right there, I know that I feel like the director probably videos or is meeting with administrators and teachers all throughout the year. Maybe just a simple video that we could see once a year, once every 6 months, of the updates that he's requesting, implementing right there. That could answer a lot of questions right here. To make a long story short, I like the weighted part. I like the part where the board is going to be proactive. I think that we are to dive in here and do every bit of this the first year, and then see after that what we're going to take away from it. See what adds, see what doesn't, see what works for us, see what doesn't. So, I like it. And like you said now, when I contacted TSBA, they said, hey, this is just a format right here. Add to it, take away whatever your board wants to do. It's your own business. But I'd like to see us do it all first year and see how it flows.
So here's what I'm going to suggest if you guys boards would approve on that. I would suggest that now that we've had some initial discussion on that and we've got some feedback that, yeah, we need to think through this and see, there may be some things in there that we say, this doesn't really apply, or I don't see how that's important. But we may come back and say, but I do feel this is important and it would fall in this category. For example, Mr. Howard talked about, being our ambassador to the community. We may not like what they have there, but we may say, we would like for our director to be present at the Rotary meeting or Chamber of Commerce meeting, on behalf of the school system, to be seen in the public. We could come up with something like that, to your point, if that's what the board would like the director to be doing, then we put that in place and we say, okay, are we doing that, or doing what, from that standpoint, what we're, some of the objectives we're setting, we could evaluate on that. I'm going to suggest that we take this document and we have it electronic, now we have it paper, and we spend the next month going through, maybe taking a highlighter and saying, we feel this is important, we feel this is not so important. We come back, compare notes, and we try to address that so we can get an evaluation tool that we're happy with, and we think that, I don't know how long that evaluation that we were doing, but somebody said that may have gone back to two directors.
Went back to Don Haley.
Okay, so Mr. Haley has been, that was back in the 90s. So, I mean, you're talking about something it's got some age on it. We could put something in place that you know, that we feel like for whatever board, whatever director would be a good tool for people to see going forward. So, so if everybody's in agreement, we'll put this on an action for our March meeting. And if the director's okay with that as well, even though that is extended maybe a little past what the contract says, so.
Is that gonna give us enough time, once we come up with what we want in, what we don't want in, is that gonna give us enough time to get it to him, for him to do his evaluation, us to do the evaluation, and also the administrators to do that? But by, what is it, June? We have to have it done by June, is that correct?
That's what this instrument says, is that the evaluation will be in June.
So I have a question that goes along with that. Because, you know, you have been in a contract, now a contract renewal, you're actually doing a job based on evaluation criteria. Just because we changed the evaluation, I definitely think we need to, but can we use that without him having, like, these are goals, right? So how can we use that if that's not been the goal? And we have to use the old one and then put this one in for next year? Or, just my thought.
Shouldn't some of these be the goals?
Yeah, and they probably are. I'm just saying, is it,
First page is gonna be-
See what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, the state's done that recently, and changed the rules in the middle, and it doesn't go over very well. I mean, in theory, I agree. I mean, I'm doing a job now started this year based on criteria that, on a model that the board had set out. You know, and you're right, and it's very close to this, but I didn't have the quantitative portion set out in my, you know, in my observation to start this year. So it would be changing the rules, you know, halfway through. You know, and you know, like I said, I'll do what the board wants me to do, but that's certainly it is a consideration. I appreciate Mr. Hickey bringing that up, but.
Okay, so just for everybody to make sure, because I'm gonna state that again, just so we're all clear. It was brought up with Mr. Hickey that even though the contract renewed, the contract was the same language as what was in place prior, and we have started the year off under, and it would have been assumed that the evaluation metrics criteria would be the same as what we did last year. So to that point, if we change here at this point in time, it's late in the game for him to make any adjustments. For example, if we as a board came back and said we want to be at state average for 5th grade math, whatever that metric is, then if you came back and we were, then that'd be a mark against the director, but yet there was no time then to make any adjustments or prepare for that. You know, that was something that's important. So I think we have two things here, if I'm thinking correctly, and you guys can let me know if you think otherwise. We have one, what we talked about is trying to get a new evaluation tool in place, that I think everybody's in consensus that's needed. But then two, do we wait and put this in place for the 24-25 school year, or do we use this as our evaluation tool coming up in the end of this year? Does that, Mr. Hickey, answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking same deal in my job, if they set my goals at X, Y, Z, and then they change it to ABC right before my goals are set to be finished, then that just seems a lot. And they are a lot of it the same. I'm just saying some of it is not the same. So is it really fair to change someone's goals right before the evaluation?
Okay. Any other thoughts or comments? Ms. Fowler?
I don't see a problem with it, but that's me. I mean, because we're gonna look at the strategic plan, and I don't know. But I've not sat through one either, and I don't know what the old one looked like. I've not got to read it, so.
There's a lot of flat in the old one as well, lots of flat in it. I mean, just like this, there's lots of things in here that could be trimmed out, but like Mr. Ricky said, these first 4 through 14 are probably already on that other, the old evaluation. And I think that, we do have a continuous improvement plan. We want to be the best in the state. We want to be the best in Upper Cumberland. And I think that's, those objectives are there. We just don't see them, and we don't have them set as far as the state average. And I agree with Mr. Hickey, as he said, that, I'd hate for my boss to come and say, hey, this is your evaluation, and we changed it yesterday, and we're gonna evaluate you on what we did, the previous 11 months, and 50 and 29 days, previously, but on these new objectives.
All right, so, and I think it was also discussed that how much time do we as a board have to go over this document to try to get it, and find how we like to do it, to put a good instrument in place. So here's what I'm going to do, and board, you can take action. I'm going to entertain a motion that we stick with the current evaluation model for the director for the duration of this school year, which means that we would stay with the current existing evaluation instrument that we're using. So I'm going to entertain a motion that we would stick with the existing motion for the existing evaluation tool for the remainder of this school year.
I'd kind of like to have time to go over the old one, because, I'm new, so I don't know what the old one says compared to this one. So I don't really think that's fair on my part.
Well, we're going to have to use some evaluation tool regardless. That's the one that's in place. I see what you're saying. Without having to look at that, you don't know which would be a better way to go.
Right, I'm not understanding what the exact huge deal is what I'm saying. What the
We
big
could still
difference
evaluate both
is.
of them we don't have to know about it till next month, or till June really, so I don't know that we have to vote on that tonight.
Well, just giving you the opportunity, because I heard a lot of discussion here
Yeah.
both ways. So I'm just trying to give you the opportunity to
Maybe-
decide where you want to go.
Maybe we could take stuff from both of them.
But if we have that, if we say there is a chance that we would change the evaluation model for the remainder of this year, then that means that we need to go and look at both. We need to do our editing on this compared to the one that's already in place. And we'll need to do that before we come back our next meeting. So what that means is we may have to have a work session prior to that, because I'm not sure that we could go have that discussion at a meeting setting like this.
Yeah.
And we need to get that in place so that way we'll know where we're going to be at May or June.
Right.
Yes, sir. Mr. Harold.
I just have to ask, I've been wanting this for 3 years now, 2 years. What are the consequences if we start this immediate right now? What are the consequences? What could go?
Well, all I can think is that I may have emphasized time and effort in another direction if the board's going to emphasize one thing, and I'm not being personal here, but if, 3 of you have family members in the school system, if the principal went to them right now and said, we're going to change your evaluation process right now, that probably wouldn't go over very well. And, if I went to my principals and said, hey, this next evaluation, I'm going to change the way I score you, they've been working towards a process. So, it is an issue. Again, you're my boss, I'll do what you say, but I think it's fair to finish on the system that I have and then start a new system where I know what the rules are before we start playing. But that's what could, if you're asking the question, what could go wrong, I think I might have emphasized things differently or spent time and effort in different ways if I knew something was more important or more as far as the board was concerned.
Well, here's my question for bringing that up. I mean, it doesn't have any bearing on your hiring or firing or, and I look at this as more as goals. So if it has to be turned in by June, and if this is already implemented and ready to go by June, year 24 and 25 is already established that these are the goals right here. I don't think does it go to the state? Does it go anywhere besides this board? So this board would understand, say, hey, we started him out under this one guideline right here. We're going to change it for the next 24, 25 years, but we're going to go ahead and get this implemented ASAP.
And I think that's what Mr. Young was saying, Mr. Howard. I think we could use both of them. We could sit down and have a work session and use both of those as an implementation. You know, work it to where we might take something from the original one and something from this one and put them together, and it's still, and a lot of these goals that you see in 4 through 14 are already on that other, the other evaluation. So, I think a work session to me would be where we would need to go with that.
All right, so let's think through this again, okay? And we have to keep in mind that this is bi-directional negotiation for the evaluation. We as a board and the director collectively come up with the evaluation that both parties seem is reasonable and fair for performance. So while we're discussing in public our part, but naturally the director has input on that evaluation as well. So the work session may be in order that gives us the opportunity to take this document, move it, step away for a little bit, look it over, compare the two. We come back together with a work session. The director comes in and we look at this and gives us a chance to talk through that. I would recommend that when we look at this, since it has been brought up by numerous board members about making these evaluations appropriate for us, meaning if you think that there's some things that don't apply, that we go through, coming back in with our edited copy. So, Mr. Stromberg, how do you feel about that, given the fact you do have voice in this process too?
Well, again, I think it's a problem, a little bit of a problem. And I said earlier that I didn't mind extending the issue, but it does concern me a little bit that my evaluation is getting changed in the middle of that process. Because there may be, like I said, there may be metrics, and I think they're all good things, and I'm supportive of this model, but I didn't start in June, July of last year with this in play. So I've worked up to this point, under a different model. In fact, when it was first brought up, I think I said the current model has served me well, so I understand from the board standpoint they wanted something different, but I wasn't entirely disenchanted with the current model. But I understand the board's desire to change. If you're asking my opinion, if the board wants to go to something like this, I'm fine with that, but I still think I should finish under this cycle, under the model that I started the year on, for the reasons that I explained earlier. I wouldn't do that to my principals, and I wouldn't expect my principals to do that to teachers and to change the rules, and even though the state does that to us sometimes as a district, but I digress. But anyway, that's where I am. I think if you're asking my opinion, I just finished this, and I mean it's February. We get to June on the current model. This one's ready. We can talk about this between now and then and have it ready to go. And we start June, start July 1 in the 24-25 school year with this in play, exactly like the board wants it. And so if they're asking my opinion, that would be my opinion.
Mr. Chairman, I'm back to, okay, this evaluation, that doesn't go to the state or nothing, does it? It's just basically for our benefit, right?
Yes.
So I don't see where it matters if we can stay with the old one or the new one if it's just for us.
Well, if it does become part of employee record.
Yeah.
And so if I'm,
So if he would rather be evaluated on this one for it to go in his record with this, I mean, it's not gonna interfere with his hiring or firing or his money or his, it's just basically for benchmarks.
Oh,
So.
it could.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, if I don't perform well,
Yeah.
the board can say, well, you're not performing well, and I can be let go. I mean, and I can't be, my pay can't be lowered, but it could, in fact, I could not get a raise based on performance. So it certainly has an effect on, that's the whole reason that the board does
Yeah,
an
well,
evaluation.
I know there's a reason we do it, but I'm saying, we just renewed the contract. It's not as though we're gonna do anything this year. So,
Well,
or next year, or whatever.
But evaluation is an important part of the contract, something that we, that we need to make sure that we have in place.
Mr. Chairman, so
yes,
is the
ma'am.
main issue number 4 through 14? Is that,
I'm not sure if we can speak to that, Ms. Fowler, as far as that. I think that would be something that would be reviewed. So I think the director brings up a good point, that if we went to this now, we're changing the goalposts right in the middle, so we could stay with where we're at. That would be one option. We could have a work session collectively with the director. We could go through both evaluations, and we could pull out the items that are similar in nature of both and say that those will be the criteria this year, and then as we go into next year, then you would add the remaining. That could be an option too. The other option be adopting as it is right now, but those would be three options that as a board we could take action on. So we need some direction on this. So I'm going to entertain a motion on either of. I said the motion that I would entertain now would be sticking with the existing evaluation format for the remainder of the 23-24 school year to give us time to review and work on this performance evaluation starting 24-25.
Chairman, did you already have a motion on the floor?
No, I didn't. I just said, Mr. Howard, I would entertain that.
No, you made a motion before.
I'm sorry?
You made a motion before.
I didn't. I said I'd entertain it.
I don't think it got completed.
I said I'd entertain the motion.
Okay. He wasn't making the motion.
I did not make the motion.
He wasn't making the motion.
Okay. So, Mr. Chairman, I really want to do a new evaluation. I was saying that Mr. Howard has been wanting this for a while, but yeah, after I got thinking, it's not really fair to change the rules. I think we need to do a work session and think about this, but yeah, I'll make a motion. We need to end on this legal evaluation we did.
Okay, let's have a motion by Mr. Hickey. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Hasty. Okay, discussion
what was the motion?
that we finish this term, this school year, on the current evaluation that's in place.
Okay.
Okay, so a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
When do we want to set a work session? We want to do that later?
Well, let's see
Okay.
if this passes first, and then, because it may change. So, all right, okay, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed?
Pass.
All right, so motion passes 6-0. 6-4 and 1 pass. Okay, now we'll get on to the next item is the drafting, developing this evaluation. So, we would have now until the July 1st to work on this document. So my question to you as board is, do we want to schedule work sessions to do that? Do we want to try to do it in committee, or how would you like to proceed?
Mr. Chairman, if we're gonna try to do a work session for a strategic plan, could we do it then?
Possible.
I'll try to have everything.
We may need multiple work sessions for this, but we could start there. See what, you're gonna bring some information back
I'm
to
gonna
us
bring
next
some
meeting,
things
so
in.
yeah, we might could do that.
Yeah.
So, see, just as long as we board, we have this done by June, that would be,
Right.
if we can make it the time frame. Let's just be conscious of that.
Okay.
So, that makes that agreeable to you?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so then next month, we'll work on getting scheduled for time for this.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm gonna bring
All right.
some dates in.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, we have placed, the current model is now in your folder for tonight's meeting.
Thank
Along
you.
with the new model, so they're all in one place.
Thank you.
Okay.
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 I was looking for it, that's what I was over here doing.
All right, members, thank you for working through that. So we'll go on to the next item of business. Item number 10, Governor's Voucher Program, and that's educational savings accounts. We felt it necessary that we communicate in this forum the fact that we are aware that the governor does have an initiative for a voucher program. And the voucher program, basically, in just a summary, I guess, basically says that the money now under the new funding formula by the state, the money follows the student. And so therefore, if the student applies for a scholarship, then that state money would then follow that student to that school of choice. And so legislature being in session, he is proposing that. My understanding, and Mr. Howard, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but he will present this, he would have to present this, and that would have to then go in the legislature, and they would pick it up in the House and the Senate, carry it forward as bills, or he can present the bill and have the House and the Senate vote on it. But nonetheless, this is out there, and basically giving parents the choice to pull their student from, say, a public institution and then go to a private institution if they chose and have scholarship money available for that. And so that's what's being proposed, and that's what's is in discussion in the legislature in Nashville. Just the impact that it would have on say a rural school district like where we would in. We don't have a lot of private schools that where it would be, say, an immediate threat to us today. That's not to say it couldn't happen at some point in the future, but nonetheless, it's something that could have an effect to us at a local level at some point. The fact that if we were faced with that, then our state funding could be pulled away if that was an option here for citizens of our community to go somewhere else that could pull away. And what that does, that impacts the amount of state funding that we receive. I've heard some legislators speak the fact that, hey, the districts aren't going to lose any money if somebody pulled out. Well, the state is funding us on average enrollment or enrollment. So therefore, if we don't have a student enrolled, go someplace else, it will have an impact. So that money will go. A legislature may say that, well, you're getting to keep your local money, And that might not be impactful, that might not have a big impact in, say, a Williamson County, where they fund the majority of the cost for putting students through school. But in a district like ours, that could. It would be impactful because the majority of our funding comes from state. So want to make the board and the public aware that we understand that this is out here, and continue to educate and maybe talk to representatives, Representative Cheryl, Senator Bailey, our thoughts on that. But we can also have discussion as a group here on this subject tonight if you'd like. So that's the reason why I wanted to bring this up. We do have information, as was mentioned. We have I guess an unintentional bill draft that dropped and was captured on the internet. A couple of things to point out that was noted. In a private school where this funds could be applied, the bill doesn't have any testing accountability. We are held to that. No language to prohibit discrimination. We do have languages about our funding that apply to us, being tied to not discriminating. Same thing with guarantees for students with disabilities, and then there would allow for more private schools throughout the state to participate for this funding. So it's not a sure thing. The funding for the program is not a sure thing. It's right now it's just at that beginning process, but for those that are interested in how government works and how things take place, it's an opportunity to be aware of something that could be impactful to our district. So I'll pause here. If there's any board member who'd like to speak to this, certainly want to give you a chance.
So my question is, we go through all the negative aspects of all this, reading through it, especially the way it could affect the smaller schools and everything. So is there a layout as far as what the governor's saying? What is the good part for them? Are they really thinking that it's going to save them money in the long run by closing schools or not? What is the benefit? That's what I'm trying to get at.
Well, from my understanding, it's just that he tells the story. He had a personal experience in helping a struggling student, young in their career, get to a school that was eventually able to help them be very successful, and that motivated him in the area of school choice. And this plan is being touted as a way for maybe inner city students to have an opportunity to go to a school that otherwise they wouldn't have the means to do so. But this has been proven in states all over that doesn't work. I mean, there might be some instances where that has been successful, but basically the private schools can take who they want. They can raise their tuitions if they want. And we see that happen time and time again. And so, $7,000 is not going to get you into a very exclusive private school. They get to pick and choose who they want anyway. So even if you had the right money and they didn't raise the funding. There's not really a state where this has been successful. You can look at Arizona and Indiana and all over the country where they've tried this. It's just, what it does is, in my opinion, it helps those that are on the cusp of being able to reach that tuition threshold to make it. And you're talking about, middle class families. So my biggest thing, and I'm not against privatization in the sense that if you school choice, I feel like you have it now. My problem is that the rules are not fair. And just hold them to the same accountability we have. Make them take the same tests that we have. Make their teachers have the same credibility and make them reach the same standards. Make their directors be evaluated the same way that the public school directors are evaluated. All the rules need to be the same if they're going to take the same tax dollars. This board has faced scrutiny over religious aspects that have happened in this school. Now you're talking about giving money to a religious school that can do whatever they want with it. The rules are just not the same. I'm all for, if you want to homeschool your students, I'm certainly a proponent of public education. My children have benefited from it, and I've devoted my career to it. But at the end of the day, if you're going to take tax dollars, the rules need to be the same. And that is not the way this is set up, and that's what I fear about this plan.
Thank you for that update. Ms. Gill, do you have anything you want to add?
What stuck out to me the most was really just the fact that they don't have the same standardized testing requirements. So I don't know what's keeping them in line in terms of keeping their education the same. We talked about this in AP language, how some homeschools are not held up to standards at all, so they don't get the same education, which sets them up for failure later in their life, which that's not good.
Yeah. So that's a great perspective. Thank you for sharing that. Any comments?
I do have a comment, Mr. Chairman, that I probably won't like this voucher for a different reason. Now I'm not an expert on it, we still don't know how this is going to come up. And for anybody's information, a lot of this voucher language will be under headings of education savings account, and what was the other one? It'll have savings account attached to it. So now, the way I understand it, the bill's filing date was the end of January, so no new bills can be brought up unless there's a special, something that I'm not aware of. But now this could probably be added to, amended to any of the educational bills right there to where it can progress this or slow it down. I think there's even a bill out there to stop this totally. Whether it'll gain any traction or not, we don't know. But the reason that I would probably say that the vouchers, I would disagree with them. Now, I don't have the expert that the director may have right there, but from some people that I have listened to, it will pull private education under the same scrutiny, guidelines, and requirements. If they take this government money right here, although it's from the state, every state dollar comes with some strings attached to it. From some of the people that I've heard too, it will eventually pull all the private institutions under the same level playing field guidelines. Whether it does or not, that's still in the details. So,
So at that point, doesn't it just mean that you've just expanded your public education if they're going to be falling under the same guidelines? How can you get away? So,
but even the issue that I have a disagreement with right there, that in the private sector right there, they'll have boards that's not elected. So you'll be spending tax dollars and overseen by boards that aren't elected, they're appointed. So that's taxation without representation, in my opinion. So I don't like that either. So wherever your tax dollar is, I think you ought to have an elected official that has some say-so with it. So there's a lot of aspects of it that we don't know yet, haven't heard from yet, I don't know, and I'm not an expert to be speaking on it, but, and maybe that's the wrong questions to be asking. We may be wanting to ask the questions, why is this gaining traction? Maybe we need to ask ourselves questions like that, I don't know. That might bring up a whole nother discussion.
Ms. Sump?
I think from what I've been reading, like you say, the $7,000, only thing that's going to do is make a bigger margin in it, because somebody that can't really afford private schools, that $7,000 will help them with the tuition, and the middle class might, could afford to go to more of a private school. It might just supplement them, and that it might make it more divided. And that's the reason I have a problem with it. I could see if I was living in, downtown Nashville or something, and I couldn't afford a private school, and I was a little afraid of some of the inner city schools that my child might not be safe. Could understand it, but where we live, I think we'd be better off without it.
Any other comments?
I tell you, we were talking about private schools and their tuition. You think about Warren County. Warren County has Boyd Christian, which is a private school. It's about $5,000 a year to go to Boyd Christian, for tuition. So, I mean, it's gonna benefit those parents. If they go, they're gonna make $2,000 just by putting their kids, in Boyd Christian. So, I just think it's a bad deal for public education. I think that, if you want your child to go to a public or a private school, I think they need to fund it themselves. That's their choice. But public education was set up to offer an education for every student to go through the public schools. And I'd say everybody in this room is a product of public education. And we've got doctors and we've got people who have much bigger degrees than I have. I mean, I don't have a degree, so they've got more education than I've got, but we've all been successful. And we're all a product of public education. And I think we need to stick to our guns and stand behind public education and fight for it to the end.
Well, thank you. Anybody else have any comment? I'd just say that one thing that we all have to remember is that, everybody's in competition. You're always selling, and even public education has to sell. And I'm thankful for our administrators and our teachers and staff to make this district a quality district. And we're getting quality results, as Mr. McDonald said. Let's not take it for granted. Let's not think that there would never be a threat to what we have here. Let's just try to keep doing it at high standards and be tops in the state, be tops in the district, and maybe people will say, well, it's no use going and doing a private school to get educational saving dollars in White County because their education system is so good that we couldn't get anybody to come.
So I want to commend Ms. McGill as well, because their language in an arts class at the high school, they're talking about this. This is current topics, so kudos to those teachers there that are putting the current events and the current topics in front of those students and letting them have their own decisions. So thanks for your input, Ms. McGill.
Let's just continue to work on that. So, okay. Well, if nothing else, I want to move on to the next item as we go through. Next item on our agenda is there in your packet. There was a lease agreement that's presented to us where Home Church has requested to lease the auxiliary gym at the White County High School. And as you see that they identified the times that they would be meeting and their starting date. And with that, you see the contract. It has the fee that's being assessed for that. And so that has been presented to us tonight for consideration. So Mr. D, I know, has been working with drafting this agreement and working through that. So if there's any details that you'd like to make the board aware of, give you the opportunity to do that.
There was a slight amendment. I don't think I've put that amended copy in front of you, but it just says that this contract would renew annually as long as agreed upon by both parties, unless it's terminated for another year. But there are termination clauses in there as well. But we just put so that we didn't have to sign a new contract every year, as long as both parties were agreeable that it would renew annually from the start date. This is a startup church. I believe that Chris Howard is in charge of this endeavor. Mr. Wilson is on board Principal Wilson is on board trying to make this work. So they've been meeting and having conversations, and this contract would officially begin, I think, on February 25th.
Has this contract been looked over by our lawyer?
It has. Yeah, his only suggestion was to put the termination clause in there, or the renewal clause for annual renewal.
Where would the money go?
The money goes to the school, but some of it would come to the high school.
To the high school.
But some of it, as all rentals do, but we would have to monitor for a short time some of the usage, because the district supplies the toiletries.
So we would have to monitor that for a short time to understand what kind of use is going on, and then we would recoup some of that from the high school to cover a cost for paper towels, toilet paper, that sort of thing.
Would that be something that Mr. Thorpe will be monitoring? Would that be
Yes.
something that you would take
Yes.
care of? Okay.
Yes, he rations 1 square per student. No, he will, no. No, yeah, absolutely, yeah, we had that conversation just today, and so he would monitor that and then be able to give the board the Board of Education, or my office, a bill that we could then charge back or recruit from the high school through these funds.
Great.
Mr. Chairman, is there anyone here that represents that church that would like to speak?
Don't
Say anything?
think so.
Have they started meeting yet?
No, they've had some organizational meetings. They've met at the high school and talked about this process and what it's going to take, but they've not.
That's what I said.
I know Chris Harris, Terry Harris.
They're gonna have to bring in a lot of money, it looks to me like.
Okay, so, y'all said the agreement. Any other comments on the lease agreement? Okay, hearing none, at this time I'll entertain a motion for approval of the lease agreement between Pike County High School and Home Church.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion by Mr. Howard, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. McDonald. Any further discussion?
Is this is a yearly agreement, correct? This is
Yes.
not a long-term. Are they going to be looking for a long-term facility, or
No.
do you know?
No, most of that, I mean, we don't know. At some point, I would think so. I mean, it's most of the,
Yeah.
a lot of times these church plants will start somewhere renting, and then if it grows.
Okay.
then-
I don't think they have the funds right now to
Okay.
actually purchase the building, so.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, any other comments, discussions? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Next item on our bid agenda is item number 12, Robert's Rules of Order. Mr. Howard, you asked that to be on the agenda, so recognize you at this time.
Thank you,
Speak.
Mr. Chairman. I'm gonna start this out the proper way, the Robert Rule. Robert Rule always says that you can have a motion and a second to discuss it. But we've had questions and issues about what was correct, what was proper. And I'd like to make a motion that the school supplies every school board member and any viewers a revised edition of Robert Rule of Order, a simplified one. Now, they come with a lot of ways, Robert Rules for Dummies, Robert Rules in brief, or just however you want to state that. And then they make a flip chart. It's usually just one page that has what motion it is, whether it needs to be seconded, whether it can be discussed, and what majority it takes to pass. And usually you can get that, all three of those in a combo on Amazon for less than $50. I got mine for 30 something. So
Okay.
my motion is for every school board member to have those 3 copies up there. And hopefully they'll bring them with them.
I'll second. I'll second.
All right. Can I just, before you do that, clarify? So I have a motion on the floor for the district to provide board members with Robert's Rules of Orders and a simplified version, and provide that to all board members, so.
And the plastic cheat sheet. Nothing's usually over $25, $30, even that thick one. And the cheat sheet's at $7, $8.
Okay, so, motion on the floor that the district provide board members with those resources. And I have a motion to have it by Mr. Howard, I have a second by Mr. McDonald.
Is everybody okay with that?
Any other?
Everybody okay? Okay, good.
All right. Any further discussion? And that would include our school board, our student representatives as well.
Absolutely.
Ms. McGill?
I was gonna ask, the schools will be paying for it, like the school funds?
We're asking the director out of the board's central office allowance to provide that for us, correct?
Okay.
Coming out of his contract.
All right, motion, can I have a second? Any other discussion? That's a great idea, Mr. Howard, thanks for bringing that up. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item on our agenda is Boardsmanship Code of Conduct, policy 12021. And we left off last month about discussion about whether or not we as board members felt the need to sign that oath, or sign that policy, that code of conduct policy, have that on file. Mr. Dromberger did provide that if we move in that direction. So that was what was discussed last meeting. So this time, just open that up for discussion. If we have any other thoughts on that, and we can entertain a motion.
Following along with Mr. Howard's recommendation on the motion, I'll make a motion that we approve this policy for us to sign at the September meeting each year. I'll sign it right now, but for this year, but I would recommend that it be signed by all new board members at this first meeting of the new term each year.
Okay, so I have a motion to, that we sign annually at the September meeting, the Boardsmanship Code of Conduct, and have that be on file at the district. So I have a motion by Mr. McDonald. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Haston. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Next item is regarding to same policy, B, relations with Director of Schools. Item 2 on that item 2 on the direct relations with Director of Schools section, which that would be line 17 on page 2. Mr. Howard, you brought that up. What do we need to discuss about that?
I would like to know the definition of that line item 2 right there, just for my personal benefit.
I will hold the Director of Schools accountable for working with staff and requiring them to work within the framework of policies set up by the board.
I guess my question is when a school board member, and it says I will, it doesn't say the board as a whole, it says I will. How do I know to do that? How do I do that? How? I mean, give me some parameters. Or will that come later?
I wasn't really prepared to give you parameters for that tonight.
I don't have an answer. I did call TSBA and I know what they said, but I want this board to make the decision on that. And that could be coming back in another time. I know that when I've already had from one comment, from one person, they said, have you looked through all that on what that policy states right there? I said, yeah, there's a lot to do in that. And I said, so, this could be a work in progress. Once when we sit down to sign this right here, maybe we'll have the answer to that right there, on how we're going to go about doing that. Because I don't have any action to take on it. I don't know. I seriously don't know.
Well, part of that is, I think it's a question that you could say, how would I hold the Director of Schools accountable? Well, we do that through our meetings. We have the opportunity to engage with the director in this format, in this setting. Obviously, we all, Mr. Dromberger always says reach out and have conversation with him, makes himself available to us, so we have the opportunity to engage with him in that manner. And then what we discussed tonight is the director's evaluation. That that tool itself gives us the ability to provide input for accountability. So those are three things three ways that I would come up with, Mr. Howard, to say how you could fulfill that part of the policy.
I'm interested to know what TSBA said.
To the best of my remembrance, okay, they said that we were required to look at the policies according to how the teachers are supposed to teach and what they're supposed to teach, and hold the director accountable to make sure they do that. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, because that's what I took from it, what they told me. But I don't know what standards a lot of the teachers are required to do, because we've had a question on that.
That's
And
back to the evaluation, because we evaluate the teachers and everything, so that would be the same standards, right?
But
I mean, to me, just from listening to what TSBA said, I think that would get back to our point of, that would almost be us micromanaging him. You know, the state sends their recommendations they set the standards that we have to teach to, and he's making sure that that's happening. I mean, I don't know, there's a lot to it.
But,
go ahead, Ms. Fowler.
I mean, to me, we hold them accountable, like she said, when we did the evaluation anyway, I feel like,
So that'd be one of the three that mentioned that we could do. But yeah, I mean, when we, the working staff require them to work the framework, the policies set up by the board, we can, we can take a policy and that pertains to teachers and what parts of our policy pertain to them, and then we could ask him for how's this getting done. So that's one way that you could answer that question. This comes to mind for me. So, any other thoughts? I'm sorry, go ahead, Mr.
I was just going to support that what everybody's saying right here is the importance of having this code of conduct right here, where it starts out with I will, I will, I will. And when you read those and you say I will, and you sign them right there, which I'm glad we've passed and everything, that's just to bring up one of the importance of our job. And that, I hate to even bring this up, but I've had administrators look at me and tell me, Dwayne, we want a board that's a formality. And I just asked, what are you talking about? They said, we don't want a board member that gets up there and asks a lot of questions. We want you to come to our school, and we want you to let us highlight our school and our students right there. Y'all vote yes on everything, we feed you and go home. And I understand there's been a lot of things happen in the last year that a lot of us didn't want to go through. Didn't expect to happen. We had to deal with it, and I'm glad that the people from the public had the opportunity to come up and speak, and I hope that expands upon. But that's our job. That's our job. And so everything that I've been kicking and screaming and dragging and pulling and pushing and everything is to try to get people to realize this is important. And although when there's still only 7 members on our board right here, every individual person is accountable at an extreme high level. So I guess in the long run, that was just my reason for bringing it up, is just to get everybody to start thinking and start being proactive instead of maybe I am too far to the right, okay, or to the left, whichever way you want to say it. But sometimes you have to go way that direction right there to pull something back to the center. And that's been my whole goal of setting right here, is just have a board that's not a formality.
Well,
it hurts my feelings when it is.
Well, I don't think this is a formality board. I think we've got people here that are concerned, interested in the district, and take responsibility in trying to do what's best. So I appreciate you guys demonstrating that in our meeting, our time working together. Okay. So I'm going to move on to item number 14, that's public comment. We did not have anybody requesting to speak tonight. So go next to new business, and new business in our packet. We have two requests. One is a travel request form. This is for White County Middle School students to go to the Tennessee State FFA Convention in Gatlinburg. That would be the end of next month, March. So that would be a Sunday through Wednesday travel, and the students will be competing at that event. So that has that travel request form has been submitted for our approval. So this time I would entertain a motion to approve the travel request submitted by Terry Stubblefield on February 1st for the middle school FFA group to go to
So
Tennessee
moved.
State.
So
So a
moved.
motion by Mr. McDonald, I have a second by Ms. Haston. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, motion passes. Next item is a fundraiser request for the White County Middle School softball team. We brought to our attention that there has been a coaching change, and that when that happens, a lot of the incoming coaches, they get what's left from the previous coach, and they not engaged with the fundraising and the balances and what it takes to run a program. So they have requested for online donations. They are requesting needing funds of approximately $5,000 for various softballs, game balls, things that they need for the program that been listed. The approach that they are taking is using a portal called onlinedonations.us. What this does, and it was included in your packet, information about that application and how that's done, and then also the letter that went out will go out to the softball parents, explaining to them how it works. And what their request is. They can forward that to others and donate, I guess, as whatever amount they're able to. But one thing about this this method, and we've talked about using online apps before, this will take 10% of the donation. So basically, for every $200 they raise, they'll get $180 out of it. But what this does, it will create a paper trail for where money is coming in, and so it's not that, well, somebody's knocking on the door and saying, hey, can I raise some money, and they say, yeah, I gave you $100, but it's only turned in half of that. So it does seem like a controlled way for them to go and just request for donations. So from my perspective, having looked at it, thought it was a good approach. But has been requested that we approve their fundraiser, but we certainly need to make sure that we understand what their fundraising activity is. So any comments on that? Mr. D, would you like to expand on that any?
No, we've done this once before. I think JROTC did this similar fundraiser, and it was very successful. It's very impersonal. You're not buying any gift wrap or any cookies. You're just giving them money. But at least they're honest. So basically, the students will submit papers back that have phone numbers or email addresses on this company, and then reaches out to them and said, "You want to give on behalf of this person?" And that's pretty much it. And then they send you a check.
I actually gave to the junior ROTC, but I don't remember. I think I just clicked the link online on Facebook, because I'm by no means, I'm all for the fundraisers for the kids, because my kids played sports, and without it, but I know a while back we had some that was complaining because they was getting like multiple people asking. Do y'all remember that when we had that
Why are we
problem?
having so many fundraisers?
Yeah. So,
Well, we've dialed this back, but again, like I said, if
we had a coaching change that we didn't
Right, I mean,
plan
that's
for.
what I'm saying.
And so they didn't want to accept or inherit the previous coach's fundraiser idea, so they're submitting this one because they thought it would be simpler. So it's not, it's not, it's an,
It's
it's
replacing
not,
one.
it is replacing one. It's not.
What
a-
was the other one, do you remember?
I don't recall, I'd have to go back to the
I
file
would
and
too,
see.
yeah, I don't remember what it was either, so. Yes,
Knowing Coach Seagraves and his detailed letter here, I mean, he's a finance guy, right? I mean, he teaches personal finance
Oh, he's great.
at the high school, so,
Um,
yeah, I can see that this is a pretty good deal for him.
Yeah, yeah, I think, yeah.
All
I
right,
really do
so
like him.
that's been presented to us, and we've had a little discussion about understanding what it is, so, this time
I'll make a motion that we approve it.
entertain a
Second.
motion for approval. I have a motion by Mr. McDonald, I have a second by Ms. Fowler. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. That's all the new business that I have for you tonight. There is no old business, so it leads us down to chairman's comments. To remind you that our next board meeting will be March 14th. That will be at Northfield, committee meetings at 5, board meeting at 6. Just a reminder, to review section 5 policy, and if there's anything that you'd like for us to discuss specifically in that, please let me know prior to that meeting date, and so I'll make sure we get it on the agenda. So this time I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
I made all the rest of them, so moved.
All right, motion by Mr. McDonald, second by Mr. Allen. Discussion. Approved. Thank you.
Who made the second? I don't know. Who made the second?